Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. The Irishman is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe to get everyday update. In a nursery house, an ancient man was seen thinking back his youthful days. He is straight to the point Sheeran. Back at that point, he worked as a conveyance man for a slaughterhouse. For a long time, he worked energetically without ever taking a single day off, but indeed so, he was come up short on and couldn't give for his family. One day, his conveyance truck was broken down close a gas station. He at that point met a middle-aged man who made a difference him with his issue. His title is Russell Bufalino. Straight to the point was thankful to meet him and had him made a difference his issue. After a brief presentation, Straight to the Point returned to his work. That night at a bar, Straight to the Point ought to know a eatery proprietor known for his call title Thin Razor. Straight to the Point advertised thin steak for a cost, but he appeared to think little of Straight to the Point. He at that point inquired Straight to the Point to let him attempt his meat. The following day, Straight to the Point worked as regular. He inquired for more meat to convey, but the laborer didn't appear to care for his ask and instead gave him a seal for the truck entryway and inquired Straight to the Point to put it sometime recently he cleared out, but instead, Straight to the Point put the seal and cleared out from there. On his way, he halted by Skinny's eatery and conveyed a few meat to him. After that, he at that point fixed the entryway and proceeded conveying the rest of the meat. This kept rehashing. Straight to the Point indeed shared his pay from Thin with other representatives. Thin was fulfilled with the quality of the meat and began requesting more from Straight to the Point. Straight to the Point, who was nearly resigned from his work, chosen to convey all the meat from the slaughterhouse right to Thin. Knowing the truck was purged, Frank's boss was troubled and sued Straight to the Point for taking from him. Knowing that he was sued, Straight to the Point attempted to discover a lawyer to assist him within the trial. That was when he met William Bufalino. He claimed that he will protect his client, indeed in spite of the fact that the client was blameworthy. William inquired Frank's thought processes to take all his boss's meat. Straight to the Point told him everything. He had been working without a single day off for a long time, but his boss never gave him a raise. That straightforward confession was at that point utilized by William to battle Frank's boss in court. William, taking care of the court so well, he indeed made the judge side with him and Straight to the Point and turned things around. The judge was frantic at Frank's boss for suing Straight to the Point. He indeed undermined Frank's boss to never sue Straight to the Point once more. Straight to the Point was judged as a great specialist. After they win the trial, William took Straight to the Point to celebrate their win at Skinny's eatery. That was when Straight to the Point found out that William was the cousin of a mobster, Russell Bufalino, the one that once made a difference him with his trucks issue. In that eatery, there was moreover a mafia boss named Bruno. He was seen chatting with Thin, but his eyes kept looking at Straight to the Point. After assembly Straight to the Point for the primary time, Russell had been liking Frank's personality, especially when he found out that Straight to the Point, who was an Irishman, may talk Italian. Straight to the Point said that he learned it amid the war in Italy. Straight to the Point went to war for a long time. He was a pitiless man. Amid the war, he took 2 war detainees to dig a gap within the ground without them knowing. They were burrowing their possessed graves. After they wrapped up, Straight to the Point murdered both of them. Russell, after stopping his work within the slaughterhouse, Straight to the Point began working for Russell. Russell had a little window ornament shop as a cover for his genuine work as a mobster. Everybody who knows him regarded him so much. He did numerous things to assist other mafias with their issues. He may offer assistance, take over businesses from somebody, made a difference, government specialists get advancements, bribe judges for trials, resolve debate between mafias, and indeed murdered individuals. He was so respected even mafias had to urge his authorization to murder somebody. Frank's relationship with Russell got closer. Indeed, Russell began to accept him and made Straight to the Point his confidant. Straight to the Point began doing more imperative occupations for Russell, like asking for deferred installments from Russell's clients. Straight to the Point was not a forceful sort of fellow, or maybe a calm and astute individual, but when one day he found out his girl was pitiful since she was pushed by a basic needs store proprietor, fair since she dropped a rack, made Straight to the Point angry. He at that point went to meet the store proprietor and beat him. He indeed broke the store owner's hand. Frank's closeness with Russell finished up making Russell the adoptive parent of Frank's child. Straight to the Point began seeking out for extra work until he met a mafia who needs a laundromat to be annihilated since it obstruction with his commerce. After getting a few installments from the mafia, Straight to the Point instantly did his work. When he was about to blow the put, Bruno, one of the foremost regarded mafias in that region, found out around it. Turned out, he was one of the partners of the laundromat. He was frantic at straight to the point, but gratefully, Russell made a different straight to the point out of his issue. To cover Bruno's misfortune, straight to the point had to work with him. It turned out that his work was to slaughter the individual who gave him the arrange to crush the laundromat. Since Frank's to begin with work with Bruno, he got to be a customary executioner who frequently got in occupations. He regularly took orders to slaughter somebody from Russell, but he never inquired for cash from him, since he did it as a tribute to Russell who had given him his work. Frank's life began to move forward. He seemed give for his family. He may take a day off and unwind with his family. Russell was continuously there with him. Russell appeared to like Frank's children and treated them as his children, all since he couldn't have children. One day, Russell presented straight to the point to Jimmy Hoffa, the head of the Universal Brotherhood of Teamsters. Jimmy was the foremost persuasive individual after the President of America. At that time, the union had over 1 million individuals and they saved their annuity stores there. Jimmy inquired straight to the point to go to Chicago to settle a taxi driver's debate. There, he met Salerno, Jimmy's colleague who runs everything there. Tony said they were competing with another taxi company which made them lose their benefit. Straight to the point at that point made a difference to urge freed of another company's taxis and brought back Salerno's taxi company to its eminence days. After effectively grabbing all the competitors' trade, Salerno told each single detail of the arrange that straight to the point made to assist the company. After Salerno cleared out, Jimmy inquired straight to the point to remain in his house since he didn't need Frank's title to be recorded in any of the lodgings in Chicago. The relations between straight to the point and Jimmy got closer after the trade in Chicago. They regularly went to the stop with their family, whereas talking around trade. Straight to the point started to discover out that the benefits fund money from laborers within the union was utilized by Jimmy as a credit to the mafia with huge intrigue. This credit commerce was handled by one of Jimmy's men named Allen. He got 10% off the bargain. Most of the credit money from Jimmy was utilized by the mafia within the betting trade, and in truth, Las Vegas may gotten to be like presently much appreciated to Jimmy's finance. Jimmy had so much cash, indeed his spouse got sufficient cash to buy 22% of Arrive in Florida. Indeed crazier, she also got her claim skiing club, Total with its claimed Snow Mountain. One of the borrowers of Jimmy's support was Sam Giancana, a businessman who could be a near companion of the Kennedy family, one of the presidents of America. It was simple for Kennedy to run for president thanks to the advance from the mafia. John F. Kennedy too had an understanding to assist the American mafia to require Fidel Castro's control over a few businesses in Cuba. Jimmy was not cheerful with John F. Kennedy running for president since he knew that his business will be in peril. He can now not make calls for his lawful trade. The Kennedy family found out around Jimmy's benefits finance advances. Moreover, someone from the Kennedy family took portion in working with Jimmy within the union. This made Jimmy so irate that he chastened all of his staff, counting Frank. Frank was irritated, but Jimmy immediately apologized to him. After his arrangement as president, John F. Kennedy named his more youthful brother, Robert Kennedy, to gotten to be lawyer common. That set issues for Jimmy's commerce. Straight to the point told everything to Russell approximately what happened to Jimmy. Hearing that, Russell guaranteed to induce JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy, to remind him of the one that made a difference his son to run for president. Straight to the point was at that point entrusted to convey weapons that the mafia would utilize to get freed of Fidel Castro in Cuba. Straight to the point drove the truck to Florida. It turned out that the Americans' endeavor failed miserably. They misplaced gravely against Fidel Castro. That misfortune was one of the foremost humiliating incidents that happened to America. Much obliged to that, JFK begun getting awful notoriety. To form things right, Robert suggested they begun to bring down Jimmy's unlawful trade to assist JFK clear his title. Robert, who as of now knew that Jimmy has given $500,000 from workers' annuities to Nixon, America's presidential candidate who fizzled against JFK, decided to target them to begin with. On one event, Jimmy and straight to the point went to the workers' assembly. The specialists begun to stress around their retirement cash at the union. Jimmy was a little disturbed by the agent of the union, Tony Provenzano. Tony sold his title to the individuals to secure his position within the eyes of laborers who were beginning to stress around their annuities. Tony was the head of the department in modern shirt. Tony and Jimmy once developed up together, in spite of the fact that it wasn't for as well long. Tony was known to be so brutal that he once requested some person to slaughter his potential competitors and put their bodies in a pulverizing machine. Tony's pomposity made Jimmy feel frightened. Each botch that Tony made would be borne by Jimmy at trial. Jimmy aiming to allow his appointee to straight to the point to supplant Tony. Jimmy persuaded Frank to do it for his family. At last, Straight to the Point concurred to do it. For the first time, Straight to the Point got a such tall grant from a companion. He was advanced to become the president of the union as Jimmy's representative, while Jimmy proceeded to experience trials. Jimmy's bad dream began coming at him. One day, amid his trial, someone attempted to kill him, but gratefully, the man fizzled. Since at that point, Jimmy was continuously escorted at the trial. Jimmy's gather also began to examine the witnesses and columnists who were going to the trial. They examined each foundation and every mistake they had ever committed and blackmailed the witnesses and columnists to pull back their report. One time, whereas getting a charge out of coffee, Jimmy and Russell listened to news of the shooting of JFK, which finished up murdering him. Jimmy was exceptionally happy to listen to the news since Robert Kennedy, the lawyer general who was the more youthful brother of John F. Kennedy, may not have the quality to battle Jimmy. Jimmy was so upbeat he restricted grieving the president's passing at the labor union office, but indeed in spite of the fact that JFK was dead, the jury's choice was consistent. Jimmy had to be detained for a long time while the union's lending exercises proceeded from behind iron bars. Jimmy had arranged everything by giving an arrange to Fitz, his confidant. Fitz got to be a substitute for the brief president of the union, whereas Russell, who didn't like Allen, continuously prevented the application for credits for the mafia, indeed in spite of the fact that Fitz, the between times president, had concurred to it. Russell inquired Straight to the Point to allow a small lesson to Allen so that he knew his botch. The following day, Straight to the Point besieged Allen with discharges to create beyond any doubt he learned his lesson. Since at that point, Allen never made the same botch of ruining the advance from the union. In the meantime, Tony was captured by the FBI and sent to the same prison where Jimmy was imprisoned. Tony was imprisoned for a long time. Whereas eating at the prison's cafeteria, Tony came to Jimmy to inquire around his retirement cash worth $1.2 million that had vanished, whereas Jimmy's pension support, which was the next sum, was still there. Both of them were imprisoned, but diverse from Tony, Jimmy's cash was not vanished. Jimmy told Tony that their case was diverse, so the medicines were moreover diverse. Tony was captured for blackmail, whereas Jimmy was captured for fair extortion case. Tony couldn't acknowledge that his cash was the as it were one that was lost. They got into a contention that finished up in a battle. Russell told Straight to the Point around another mafia called Insane Joe Gallo. Both Joe and Russell were Italians, but Russell didn't like him a bit. Joe's terrible disposition and insolent way made Russell appalled. He didn't indeed delay to slaughter individual Italians to urge what he needed. On one event, when it was Russell's birthday, Joe made fun of Russell and made Straight to the Point instantly drag him absent. He at that point said that both Joe and Russell were mobsters, which they shouldn't be making fun of each other. In spite of that, Joe didn't care and thought that all the other mafias were underneath him. He at that point cleared out with a taunting C. Straight to the Point back to his table to Russell, who was sitting by himself. From the look in Russell's eyes, Straight to the Point knew what to do. When Delight, his spouse, and his children were eating at an eatery, Straight to the Point suddenly showed up and shot Joe dead right before his spouse and children. The another day, Straight to the Point observed the news of Joe's kill, whereas having breakfast, Peggy realized that it was all his father's doing. After a long time of serving his time in jail, at last, President Nixon was chosen. He still recalled when Jimmy gave him $500,000 for his candidacy. He quickly orchestrated parole for Jimmy. At last, Jimmy seemed feel opportunity once more, but shockingly, the union has been controlled totally by Fitz. Seeing that made Jimmy decided to recover the union, but Jimmy's issue with Tony in prison made it troublesome for him to win his position back in the union, until at an assembly in Florida when Jimmy and Anthony met once more. Rather like when they were in jail, they begun contending which driven to a battle. On the way domestic, Jimmy inquired Straight to the Point to assist him get Russell's consent to slaughter Tony. Straight to the Point clarified that it was very troublesome to do. He felt that it would be as well difficult for Jimmy to battle for the chair within the labor union once more. Straight to the Point at that point attempted to discover a way out with Russell, but most of the mafia exhorted Jimmy not to do it with viciousness. In the meantime, Jimmy appeared to be running out of tolerance. He started acting forcefully. He utilized the media to discolor Fitz and Tony's notoriety. The Cold War between them at long last started. Fitz, who was assaulted by the media after what Jimmy said almost him, chosen to reply. He intentionally blew up Jimmy's friend's pontoon. Jimmy reacted by planting and blasting Fitz's son's car so that he would halt advancing his child as a substitution candidate for one of the union's department workplaces. Fitz at that point fired Jimmy's spouse from a department office of the union. Jimmy was getting enthusiastic and finally cooing in the media, saying that Fitz loaned annuity cash from the union to the mafia to fund their illegal business in numerous places in return for tall intrigued. Salerno, one of the enormous mafias who often borrowed cash from the union, was baffled with what Jimmy had said to the media. His words may hurt the mafia. Jimmy moreover had the potential to gotten to be in foe of the mafia. Salerno at that point asked Frank to exhort Jimmy to halt what he was doing since it may hurt everybody. After all, straight to the point, Salerno and Russell discussed the most perfect way out of the issue. He passed on a message from Salerno and told Jimmy to fair get his annuity and live discreetly with his grandson, but Jimmy denied to resign. He rejected the recommendation. He still demanded on taking back the authority of the union for the sake of his pride. Straight to the point got a situation. Jimmy was his companion, but his activity by telling the truth to the media, and Jimmy's willfulness to require back the position of chairman of the union by uncovering privileged insights related to the mafia were truly deplorable. Straight to the point realized that the mafia would begin chasing Jimmy because they were anxious that their unlawful commerce would be found. Tragically, not as it were Jimmy, but Frank moreover got into inconvenience with other mafias since they knew Straight to the Point was Jimmy's near companion. Russell once more attempted to mediate the issue. He held a huge gathering party between the mafia so Jimmy might open his eyes. The union was not as it were approximately himself, but moreover almost the survival of all the mafia who depend on the union's financing in their commerce. Salerno detailed to Russell that Jimmy avoided numerous credits from being dispensed and used his influence to hold donors from giving over their cash to the union so that numerous applications seemed not be dispensed. It had a terrible impact on the mafias. There's a plausibility that there will be a war between mafias battling over credits from the union. Russell started to think difficult about finding an arrangement. There was as it were one way, specifically to convince Jimmy to participate so that he didn't advance issues within the battle for taking the authority of the union. That night, Russell attempted to conversation to Jimmy and persuaded him as a companion. Russell said that the mafia had been cautioning him about Jimmy's action for including within the subsidizing, but Jimmy insisted on his activity. He even said that in case the mafias needed to urge financing from the union, they had to assist him get back his administration. Russell and Straight to the Point were in a problem. At long last, Russell had to require the final resort. Russell arranged for Jimmy that day. Russell gave the Grant ring to Straight to the Point, the same ring as the one that Russell wore. A sense of identity for the unused ruler of the mafia so that no one can touch Straight to the Point. Russell clarified to Straight to the Point that the circumstance was out of control. Their companion Jimmy had gone as well distant to imperil everybody, counting Russell himself. He inquired Straight to the Point one more time to conversation to Jimmy. No matter what, Jimmy's activity must be halted. Straight to the Point once more prompted Jimmy to halt everything or they would murder him to halt him. By one means or another, Jimmy didn't budge. He said that he had all the legitimate proof records of the mafia he had to exchange with, counting the records of their exchange. He undermined to spill everything to. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.